I think right now we're standing on a fulcrum point. Things can go one of two ways. Either the Second Amendment will be fixed, not so much the Second Amendment itself, but how the Second Amendment is used and interpreted in the legal system, or it's not going to. One of the things that made me worry was the Minnesota gun case. So in the Minnesota gun case, they banned guns at the state fair. That went up to the courts, and in that decision, they decided, forget about text, tradition, and history. We're going to look at it as the guns are an eyesore. People don't like them. It's unpopular for them to be there. Therefore, we're going to let it stand. You cannot have guns at the state fair. That's what the judge said. And that's not really the problem. The problem is, after the judge said that, it wasn't challenged. There wasn't a motion to reconsider. No, there wasn't a whole bunch of pro-gun groups just pouncing on it. Yeah, it may be a small deal, just a small piece of the puzzle. However, if the judges are allowed to ignore the Bruin decision, even a couple of them, it will spread. I mean, you gotta take into consideration that the only reason the NFA and the GCA is still around is because it was protected by judges that were indoctrinated in, like, hey, should a Second Amendment case come up, handle it this way, this way, this way, this way. If it goes to the Supreme Court, if they even let it into the Supreme Court, they'll put a little disclaimer in there, it does not affect guns. And that went on for years. Those people's legacies have died off with them. Most of those guys that were upholding that stuff is dead and gone. And now finally the Supreme Court is starting to look at what the Second Amendment actually is. Because they pulled a fast one over the general public. What they did is they said the Second Amendment is for the people, and then they'd look at that and they'd be like, where in here does it give you the right to do X, Y, Z? And it doesn't, because that's the fast one they pulled. The Second Amendment is not for the people. It doesn't make any sense. If I tell you shall not be infringed, that doesn't make any sense. What would that mean to you? You can't stop your neighbor from having a gun? That is a restriction on government. So instead of looking in there, trying to find where it gives you the right to do this or that, they should have been looking in there, where does it grant us the power to restrict this or that? Because it doesn't. It's clearly said, shall not infringe. Well, finally, after all these, I'm not even going to call them by a certain name, people died off and their legacy died with them. Now there's starting to be a realistic approach to it. One of the big decisions, obviously, was the Bruin decision, where they said you can't take public interest in mind anymore. You have to look at text, tradition, and history, because before they take this gun law, we're going to pretend this is a gun law, looks all pretty, looks beautiful. Well, it's a gun law. Let's refer, is it or is it not constitutional? Shall not infringe. There's no power in there granted to be able to enforce this particular gun law. It is unconstitutional. However, let's look at the general public opinion. They think this gun is an eyesore. Okay, this gun law stands. And they would take public opinion in to balance out what is and is not constitutional. And that was going for years. Remember, when I was a kid growing up, I didn't even see AR-15s. I didn't see AK-47s. They were too expensive. What I seen was like pump-action shotguns, bolt-action rifles, stuff like AR-15s and AK-47s just were not in general circulation. I didn't see one until way later in my teens. As a matter of fact, the very first AK-47 I seen, I purchased. Because I never seen one before, and I'm like, that's amazing! That's cool looking, and it holds ammunition, and it's reliable. Like, that's awesome. I was an AK fanboy for years. Ultimately switched over to an AR-15, because an AR-15 is a superior rifle. What do you got to say about that? Anywho, the point of it is, times have changed. They have changed drastically. And now, again, we're at the fulcrum point. It can go one way or the other. Either they're going to start carving out exceptions for these different gun laws, and compromises will be made, or it will be fixed. The stuff that is unconstitutional, which is all of them. None of them pass the muster of the Second Amendment. Not a single one. Those will get thrown away, because they're all unconstitutional. You cannot argue with that. Every single gun law is unconstitutional. Nowhere in the Second Amendment is there any power granted whatsoever to restrict or ban anything. Remember, this is written to the government, not to the people. So, Now, what's starting to make me feel good about this, so the Ninth Circuit Court in the Young vs. Hawaii case, which is a May issue scam that went up, it went just about to the Supreme Court, and it was waiting if it was going to go to the Supreme Court on what the Bruin decision said. So the Bruin decision was given, so then it was remanded back down, so the Ninth Circuit Court could reconsider. And instead of reconsidering, what they did is they kicked it back down again. Yes, they will ultimately have to make a decision, but they kicked it back down trying to see what other circuit courts do to see if they carve out exceptions. You know, this gun law gets an exception because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, so that circuit court did that. Will it stand? Will there be political fallout? Can they get away with it? And that's basically, they're waiting for the First Circuit Court to do something in one of these cases so they can learn how to act. And that's typically what was going to happen. And they were going to see how the other courts did it, and then they would just basically copy them. So if they said, yes, this stands because of public interest, yes, in the Bruin decision they said you can't use public interest, however, this is a special case because this is some sort of special firearm the Second Amendment does not protect. Well, that would open the door, and then all the circuit courts would start doing the same thing, and then it would go up, and ultimately they would start going back up to the Supreme Court, and they'd have to wait to see what the Supreme Court said on it. So you're looking at like 10 years for the problem to be fixed. Well, a couple of the judges in the Ninth Circuit Court was like, this isn't standing. This is BS. So they wrote a dissent letter. I'm going to let Armed Scholar take it away. Great channel, guys. If you really want the in-depth, nerdy side of what's going on in the court system, he's who you want to subscribe to. But I'm just going to let him briefly touch on it, and you can go to his video and watch the entire dissent letter if you would like, but I'm just going to take a little clip out of it.
However, this stall tactic and refusal to recognize Second Amendment rights and to refuse to recognize the Supreme Court's recent ruling in Bruin did not sit well with all of the judges on that Ninth Circuit en banc panel. In fact, Judge O'Scanlan wrote a scathing dissent, which was joined by other judges, Judge Callahan, Ikuda, and R. Nelson. And essentially it said that what the Ninth Circuit en banc panel was doing, the majority who was refusing to hear this case, what they're doing is unconstitutional and that they should be ashamed of themselves.
So that dissent letter is a very positive sign that enough judges realize what's going on and how these unconstitutional laws are being protected, and they're starting to speak out about it. The more that speak out about it, the better position we're in, and ultimately it could all get shut down. Now let's talk about some of the problems that's going on right now. So I talked about the Minnesota State Fair thing. That should have had every gun organization jumping on that because you don't want it to slip. Again, we're on a fulcrum point. If it slips even a little bit, it will completely slip and we'll be in the exact same situation we're in right now, where innocent American citizens are getting prosecuted on a day-to-day basis for unconstitutional laws. It shouldn't have been allowed to stand. I don't run those organizations. I have no control over that. My opinion. And there's other things. Yes, we have CCW more than covered. Basically, every pro-gun organization has a CCW case they're working on with someone, and ultimately we will get constitutional carry. It's practically not unavoidable. If we don't get constitutional carry, we're going to get it. I can't see us not getting constitutional carry. That basically means you'll be able to conceal carry across all 50 states without having to worry about legal repercussions. That you never know what's going to happen. I mean, anything can happen. But that's about as sure as we can get on something. That is going to happen. How quickly will it happen? I don't know. But enough organizations are backing up the constitutional carry laws, taking those cases down, like we should get constitutional carry. The next one, I'm also giving silencers a star. Yes, I'm not seeing pro-gun organizations pick up silencer cases, and I have no idea why. However, the state of Texas is, and they're in there just like, they're going after silencers. There's no reason for them to be on the NFA. It's ridiculous they're on the NFA. I suspect that we will see state-built silencers at least go through. I mean, again, you never know what's going to happen, but I think in the future, should you make a silencer in your state and it stays in your state, it'll be okay. Again, we'll have to wait and see how things play out, but with the state of Texas backing something like that up, it has a high likelihood of success. So, CCW and silencers, I'm giving a star. I do have a question though. Where are the pro-gun organizations on silencer cases? Why am I not hearing about it? Why are not pro-gun organizations starting to back silencer cases, working up through the court system to get some sort of traction on that? Because it's ridiculous. There's no reason whatsoever for a silencer to be an NFA item. Another one I'm seeing huge failures on is SBR cases. Now I get they can't back every case because a lot of cases, they're going to lose. Dude got caught with like 10 pounds of dope in his car. He was trafficking humans. He's killed a couple of people, and he's got an NFA item. Obviously, you don't want to back that case up because that goes up to the Supreme Court. He may not win. However, dude gets pulled over, or a cop smells gas outside of a house. He goes in to investigate and finds this NFA item, and that's his only charge is the NFA item. Why aren't they backing it? Like I said, I get why they don't back them all, because there's like 300 cases every single day. Gun cases take up like 10% of the federal prosecutions, and they would go broke and get nothing accomplished. But how come they're not grabbing the low-hanging fruit? Why are they not cherry-picking cases? Why have I not heard about the NRA, the FPC, the GOA, any of them picking up an SBR case? There's like 300 cases a day. One of them has to be a guy with a clean record who hasn't broke any laws, who all he did is he had a firearm that was a millimeter too short or something like that. Something where it's a clear cut, like that is the only problem. There's no other variables. Why aren't we seeing them get picked up? Another one I'm not seeing any movement in. SBS, short barrel shotgun. And that happens a lot. Like, I don't want to comment on it directly, but talk to any gun shop owner, because people just don't understand the law and they'll get like 16 inches confused with 18 inches. They don't know what the shotgun barrel is supposed to be because shotgun barrels are so thin. If you get an obstruction, the barrel can bulge out the side, and the only option you have is to chop it down. They don't realize it, but they chop out the bulge, and now they have an SBS. I'm sure, even today, at some point, somebody will be charged with a short barrel shotgun that has no criminal history. That's their only charge. Why am I not hearing about these pro-gun organizations picking up a shotgun charge, a short barrel shotgun charge? That's low-hanging fruit. Why aren't they taking it? Now is the time. Another one I'm giving kind of a sad face on is auto sears. Now I'm saying kind of a sad face because yes, the GOA did attempt to pick up 2 different auto sear cases, the rear bead trigger case and this other case. Unfortunately, in those 2 cases, they weren't able to use the help the GOA was offering, so there is an effort there. But there's hundreds of auto sear cases. Pick up a Glock switch case. Something. Pick up an auto sear case and get that bad boy moving up to the Supreme Court. I haven't heard anything about any pro-gun organization picking up an auto sear case. What's going on? Now, I almost forgot to give credit where credit is due. Yes, they did pick up the bump stock case, and yes, they did pick up the pistol brace case. Now, when I'm talking about they, I'm referring to all Second Amendment organizations. Don't think I'm singling any individual one out. But those are not SBR cases. Those are not auto sear cases. Yes, that's what the government's considering them, but that's not the core problem in what they're attacking. On those particular cases, what they're attacking is something called Chevron deference. After the EPA decision, they do have a high likelihood of winning it. Now, the message all these pro-gun organizations are sending me by not picking up specific NFA cases and trying to work those up to the Supreme Court is they see those cases as a net loss. Because remember, it's all about investment versus return. So when they pick up a case, that is an investment. Their work on it is an investment. So that's either telling me that they're so convinced that those cases can't win that it would just be a net loss picking up one of those cases, or the general public is not on board enough where they can pick up one of those cases and get support, more donations, stuff like that, to get a net gain to pick up other cases. So, the real question is, are we the problem? Are we not supporting the fighting of NFA items enough to where the pro-gun organizations aren't picking up these cases, or do they just not want to touch it? I know there's a lot of conspiracies flying around where the pro-gun organizations don't want the NFA to go away because then they won't have a job. I'm not buying into that because it would be easy for them to transition over to like some sort of tactical training class or something like that, or insurance for self-defense, any one of those. I feel the problem is the general public isn't on board enough to say, hey, these NFA items are an infringement on the Second Amendment. We need to fight them. Interstate commerce. Why haven't I heard any cases being picked up by a pro-gun organization group about interstate commerce? That is something they can win. That is very clear what is and is not interstate commerce. The feds have no power whatsoever putting out gun restrictions. If it happens in the state and it stays in the state, that is a state matter. The feds don't have their hands in it. They have no power granted to them to be able to do that. Why isn't that being attacked? Yes, they were granted the power, but in a shady way. Why is that not being taken up and attacked? Now, again, I'm not an expert on these pro-gun organizations. Maybe they are picking up some of these cases I just never heard about, but usually when they pick up one of these cases, it makes the news. It's a big deal. And I haven't heard anything about it. The next one is importation. Now that is something the feds do have the power to handle. They have the power to handle state-to-state transactions and overseas affairs. Yeah, you can make a case that them restricting firearms from coming in is restricting our Second Amendment. I don't think that's a winnable position. I mean, maybe in the future it will be after we fix what's going on with the Second Amendment and how it's being prosecuted and how it's being interpreted. But I think that would be a victory that would happen years down the road. I don't think that's a winnable position now, so I get why they're not picking up those. What about the rest of these? Let's go over them again. What are they lacking? Short barrel rifle, short barrel shotguns, auto sears, interstate commerce. I would like to see those pro-gun organizations start picking up those cases. They don't have to pick them all up. There's like literally, I think it was 266 a day when I checked the numbers. And that was in 2016. I'm sure there's a lot more now. Pick up those cases. Attach yourself to one of them. There's so many out there you can cherry pick. There's great cases you can pick up and move up through the court system. Hell, I know about the auto sear one. There's a guy right down in California who sold a Glock switch to a Fed. Pick up that case. He has a completely clean record before that incident. That is an easy case to win. Well, I shouldn't say an easy case to win. It'd be extremely hard to win. But that is a very juicy, desirable case for them to clench their teeth on and start moving up through the court system. Anyway, sorry about the negative rant here. But I just wanted to stress the point. We are on a fulcrum point. It can go either way right now. We just need the push. A strong push that, hey, this piece of paper, this is the basis of our country's principles. To ignore this, or to reinterpret this and say it's written to the people, is just negligence at best, criminal at worst, and why is it still being done? That needs to be interpreted for what it is and needs to be applied to preserve American values. If that slips, what's next? The First Amendment? I mean, if you let one go, they will all follow. It doesn't matter if the First Amendment goes first or the Second Amendment or any of the other ones. If one falls, they will all fall. It would be a domino effect. So I would like to see a little bit more effort to individual cases like this. Again, kind of went on a rant there. Sorry about that. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you'd like to help support the channel, I've got my Patreon right there. You know what? I also got affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those links. Even if you don't purchase what that particular link is for. Just clicking on it and doing the Amazon shopping you were already going to do anyway. And a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.